In AvePoint policies, once you've created your various policies, you can apply them to the specific Microsoft Office 365 scopes. One way to do that is to go into Policy Manager, select the appropriate object type, and then at the bottom of the policy, click Assign. In a previous video, we've seen that in here we're going to see at least one and possibly more groups. Remember, these groups are defined based on your AvePoint Online Services auto discovery scan profiles. If you are using an express mode, you're capturing all objects of that type and putting them into that default group. We can also click on that to see the individual items that are in there, the individual objects that AvePoint Online Services has cataloged from Microsoft 365. Another way, though, to assign and manage policies is not by the policies themselves, but rather by the containers and the workspaces. If I go over to containers on the left-hand side, we can see Microsoft 365 Group, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint Online Sites, and OneDrive for Business. You'll notice that we're seeing things like default OneDrive for Business Group, default SharePoint Site Group. Again, those are coming in because of what's set up over in AOS. Notice here that my SharePoint Online Site group has a little green dot though and a few extra buttons, whereas OneDrive, as an example, is red with only a single button. That's because I've already gone to SharePoint and assigned a policy, but I've done it here in this window. So again, I'm doing it by the object grouping, by the object container from AOS, rather than going into the policy, finding the policy, and then applying it to the objects. This can be extremely useful if you have many policies, but you want to apply a few of them in a very broad way. To apply, I go to OneDrive for Business or any of my other 3 tabs, and I click the Apply button at the bottom of that container. In the panel, you will see the various policies that are available. Check all that you want, and then click Assign. We can now see the Edit, Apply, because we can apply other policies if they exist, and also the Remove button. What this has essentially done is it has gone to all of my OneDrives and applied that policy across the board in only a few clicks. To verify this, if I go back to my dashboard, we can now see that we have 2 teams out of 6 with policy. We can see that all of my SharePoint sites have policy, and we can see OneDrive, they all now have a policy. I can also hover over here to see the information as far as the coverage is concerned. I can also hover over these slices to see what percentage of coverage exists, including total percentage of my overall objects that have no coverage, where there are no policies applied. Additionally, if you would like to go deeper than the container level, if you would like to go and review the individual objects and the policies that are applied, for that we go into Workspaces. In Workspaces, we can see the name of the object, we can see the type of the object, and we can see the policy that's applied. We can also see if it's inherited or local. Inherited means that the policy was applied at the container level. So again, to do all of my SharePoint, I went back into Containers, I went to SharePoint, and I clicked Assign. I did the same thing for my OneDrives, as we saw, and now over in Workspaces, when we look at SharePoint, and when we look at OneDrive, they all show inherited. I had some teams though where I applied the policy directly to the team through the actual policy itself. So here we can see local. That is your only difference. In addition to what you're seeing in here, you have your Actions button over on the left, where you can edit the policy, where you can assign a new policy in addition to the one that's already there, or you could remove the policy. So as an example, let's say I have one OneDrive where the restrictions should not actually be in place. So we scroll down, we locate that one, and I click Remove Policy. You're about to remove the assigned policy, are you sure? And I can remove it. If at any time you need to be able to navigate around here a little bit faster, you can also filter. We can filter by object type. So if I just wanted to look at my teams, for instance, and I can even filter by that all, local, and inherited that we mentioned before. Apply the filter and it will modify your view. To reset the filter, we go to the drop-down arrow and we click clear. If I now go back to my dashboard, I can see that there is OneDrive, 19 of 20 are covered. And if I come over here, I can see that I've got a percentage coverage of 95%. Now, if you come in here and notice something like that, well, remember, I could either go back to policy management and apply that policy to the container that holds that object, or I could go back to containers, go to OneDrive, click apply, just clear, and then recheck that and hit assign. If I now go back to my dashboard, I've got full coverage. If you're curious which of your objects do not have policies applied, like here for Microsoft Teams, I only have 2 of 6, the best place to see that is to go into Policy Management, select the object type, and then click Assign. When you expand the containers, you will see what is checked and what is unchecked. So that's a quick way to be able to see where you're lacking coverage. Thanks for watching this short video on how to apply, review, modify, and even remove policies using containers and workspaces in AvePoint policies.